Here we are, episode number 33. You are in SteigerWorld on the Pittsburgh Podcast Network. Podcast number 33 and gluten-free and recyclable, as all have been. And it is Wednesday morning. What is this, October 14th? And that's when I normally do these. We've changed it a couple of times based on games that were being played. I think last week we did Thursday, but normally it's Wednesday morning when I do these, middle of the week. Kind of works pretty good. And a lot of stuff to talk about today. I figured, well, this is the first time in a long time we probably haven't started with the Pirates, but let's start with the Steelers, and we'll get to the Penguins in a second. I think the first thing about the Steelers is a pretty simple thing, is that Mike Vick stinks, okay? He had 87 yards passing on his first 17 attempts the other night. He tried 4 passes longer than 10 yards, and 3 of those were almost intercepted. He had the 72-yard bomb to Wheaton. Wheaton was wide open, and apparently, according to Vick, the play was called by Ben Roethlisberger. He did a double move on a guy and was 25 yards wide open. So imagine if he doesn't complete that, throws that over his head or throws it in the dirt. So he completed a pass that he had to complete. I mean, it was a guy, it couldn't have been, there's never a guy more open in the NFL than Wheaton was on that play. But Vick looked shaky on every throw that was longer than 20 feet from the line of scrimmage. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm talking about if it wasn't a 5-yard pass, and that's 15 feet, he looked shaky. Now, I guess there's some discussion about whether he was being reined in by his coaches, or just his coaches didn't have confidence in him, or he was not looking downfield. Whatever you want to say about it, I just know that he looked absolutely pathetic for the entire game until the fourth quarter, and I'll give him credit. He had one pass in the first quarter that was longer than 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, and that was a pass to Heath Miller. It was a nice throw, but he was wide open. And then he didn't. I don't think he completed another one longer than 10 yards until he had the 72-yard bomb. But other than that, and that's almost a fluke because the guy was ridiculously open. It wasn't like he had to lay it in there, with a defender going stride for stride with him. He just had to throw the ball in the direction of the receiver. But he had a great 16-yard completion to the 1-yard line to Heath Miller, even though it was a little bit behind Miller. He had to reach back for it, and that set up the winning touchdown. But in Mike Vick's defense, and maybe it's in his defense, Phillip Rivers was just as pathetic. Now, if you look at his stats at the end of the game, they look pretty good. But I actually made note during the game. I wanted to see how many passes there were beyond 10 yards, longer than 10 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. And I counted like 4 or 5 the entire game by Phillip Rivers that were longer than 10. That's 30 feet. That's half the distance between home plate and the pitcher's mound. That's an NFL quarterback who's considered one of the best in the league, who was leading the league, I think, going into the game. He attempted 4 or 5 passes longer than 10 yards, and he threw a nice pass to his tight end when they scored the touchdown, and Antonio Gates. He threw a nice touchdown pass to him. It was like 16 yards in the air, and that was it. That was it until and then he threw another touchdown pass. It was the same thing. It was about a 15 or 16-yard pass. These guys, the league has become such a dink and dunk league that don't even look at the stats. They're ridiculous. If you look at Mike Vick's stats for the year, they're not that bad. They could be a lot worse, and he's been terrible. So they won the game, and again, they get down to within a few points. They get in within 1 point, I guess it was, and they could have kicked the field goal to tie. I guess they were within 3. They could have kicked the field goal to tie is what it was. They were on the 1-yard line. Mike Tomlin is being praised as like this courageous coach for going for 6 points there. How do you not go for 6 points? You're on the 6-inch line. If you don't go for a touchdown there and win the game, you should be disqualified. You should be fired, first of all, as the head coach. and then the team should just be, the referee say, you know what, we're not even going to let you kick a field goal. I just decided that if anybody's that gutless, you don't want to win, so just get out and bring the bus out and load everybody on the bus, head for the airport. But this guy's being praised for being courageous for making this call. Did you watch the game? What would make you believe that Mike Vick was going to play well enough for you to win in an extra period of 15 minutes after you saw him play for 60? What would lead you to believe that he was going to help you win a game and not throw an interception on your first possession in overtime, by the way, and lose it for you? So that was the only play to call. Only decision to make was to go for 6 there, and I like the call. Have Bell run it in. Now the Arizona Cardinals are coming to town, which will be a nice retirement part of Bruce Arians' retirement vacation. He seems to be enjoying it out there in Arizona. He's going to bring the team in. They've scored 190 points in 4 games. That's a lot of points. Carson Palmer is tied with Aaron Rodgers for the lead in touchdown passes with 13. It's another huge test for the Steelers' defense, and the defense has been much better than anybody expected it to be. And by the way, the defense is why the Steelers won the game in San Diego. If not, either that or I can never figure it out anymore. I don't know whether it's the defense or just the San Diego offense being so gutless that they made it easy for the defense by never throwing the ball downfield. I don't know. I just watched the game, and it was an unbelievable snooze fest until the last 5 minutes of the game. But anyway, the Cardinals are coming in here. They've got Larry Fitzgerald. They have scored 190 points in 4 games. Carson Palmer's playing really well, and we'll see if that defense can do it again. And as I said, it was a gigantic win in San Diego. I just don't think the Steelers, I still can't believe they won the game after watching what I watched for the first 55 minutes of the game. They won in spite of Vick. It was a great game by Le'Veon Bell. Now, that brings me to one thing before I go on to the Penguins here. I have to talk about this because I hear about this all the time. I get it all the time on Twitter. Every time Le'Veon Bell has a good game, people will tweet my tweet from his rookie year when I said that the choice of Le'Veon Bell over Eddie Lacy by the Packers looks dumber every day. And people keep tweeting it. Now, what I'm doing now, just in case, if you are following me on Twitter, if you want me to block you, just retweet that tweet. Because, I put up with it for a long time. I understand, it's funny to tweet that after he's had a really good game. But I don't mind that. But I have no patience for the stupidity of people who can't understand the idea of context. At the time I did that tweet, tweeted that tweet, Le'Veon Bell had like 4 of his 7 games when he averaged less than 2 yards a carry. He averaged 3.5 yards a carry for that season. Eddie Lacy was playing great for the Packers, and Bell finished the season with a 3.5 yards per carry average. And then he came back the next year, and he's been spectacular ever since. But what he did in the meantime was lose weight, okay? John Gruden said it on the broadcast Monday night. He said he can't believe this guy. What a great back he's turned into. And he showed a replay of Bell making these unbelievably quick, beautiful changes of direction, cuts that he was just not doing that when he was a rookie. He wasn't. And I defy you to get out of the tape of every game and watch him, and you'll see the difference. I was specifically paying attention to Le'Veon Bell because I consider myself a pretty good student of running backs. And I kept waiting for him to impress me, and all I said was, and every time I did it, I knew that I would have I was risking the possibility of people throwing it back in my face later if he became better. I put so far, right now. I didn't call him a bust. I didn't say he stinks. I said right now he looks ordinary. Now people are tweeting me now and saying that he had an injured foot and he missed the first 4 games. I'm not denying any of that. I just said that at the time he looked ordinary, and he looked ordinary. That's what he looked, ordinary. 3.5 yards a carry. I hardly ever saw him make anybody miss. When he tried to run wide, he was slow and getting caught, and he wasn't able to turn the corner. He comes back the next year, and according to what John Gruden said, he was 240 pounds in college, and now he's 215. So I went back and looked at the some stuff around the draft in 2013. Excuse me. And I went to, I think it was SB Nation where I found it, and the analysis of Le'Veon Bell after the Steelers took him in the second round. He was referred to in the scouting report by SB Nation. I don't remember who did it. It said he was a truck in college. Does Le'Veon Bell look like a truck to you right now the way he runs? Because if he does, he's not a very good one. His strength is making people miss, unbelievable patience, tremendous footwork, and great make 'em miss ability. And the same scouting report also said that he was not a nifty runner. Was not a guy who was a nifty runner who made people miss once in a while, is what it said. Which is exactly what I thought I saw when he came to the Steelers as a rookie. A big back, didn't impress me, ran with some power, but didn't make anybody miss. And now he's a great back. If he's not the best back in the league, he's right up there in the top 2 or 3. So if you're listening and you follow me on Twitter, please let me up on the Le'Veon Bell. I'm not taking back one word that I said about him. He looked ordinary in 2013. Look at his stats. Look at his games. He had at least 5 games when he averaged less than 3 yards a carry. He only played, I think, 12. So that's ordinary. And 3.5 yards a carry, you know what that'll get you? Out of the league if you're a running back. You don't play if you're 3.5. Now he's averaging about 4.5. And he's a lot lighter. So leave me alone with Le'Veon Bell. And of course, now what I'm doing, anybody who retweets, who drags that tweet up, I just block them. I got 9,000 followers now. I don't need them. I don't need the aggravation. So, but this just gives me a chance to sound off on it and try to explain the context of that tweet that I keep having thrown in my face. Now, I think we should mention, while we're on the subject of football here, we should talk about Pitt football a little bit. 4-1. I think Pitt should be 5-0. The wins over Youngstown State and Akron don't count for me in the record. It's officially 4-1, but they should have beaten Iowa. I think they would have been more aggressive. They could have beaten Iowa. Neither Virginia Tech nor Virginia are great opponents, but recent Pitt teams would have figured out a way to lose at least one of those games, and they won them both. One of them on the road. Pretty impressive at Virginia Tech. So maybe it's a mirage, but the team just looks more intense under Pat Narduzzi, not so much on offense, but on defense. I noticed that the first game. You don't normally notice something like that, at least I don't remember noticing it to me as obviously from the first game that I watched them play. There just seems to be all this energy on defense, and they are among the leaders in the country in college football in a lot of defensive categories. So, and he's a defensive guy. So I think Pitt looks like they're on the way to being respectable. That's the least that you can expect from them, but it's a lot more than you've gotten in a long time. So I think it's good to see Pitt doing that. And if you're going to play teams like Virginia and Virginia Tech, just beat them. And you look at West Virginia. Man, they had to join the Big 12. They get Oklahoma one week and Oklahoma State the next. Then they get Texas. That's tough on them, and they're trying to hold their head above water in that league. The Pitt is in a league in which they can compete. So, and they're beating ACC teams. They're undefeated in their conference. That's what you got to do. Okay, now let's go to Major League Baseball. How about them Cubbies? The other night, Arrieta, the hidden vigorous, caught up to him. He gives up what? I think 4 runs in 5 2/3 innings, which is as many runs as he's given up in the last 4 months or something. The Cubs still managed to win. That showed me a lot, that their guy goes out there and gets knocked around, and they still managed to figure out a way to win that game. They didn't let that bother them. And now the Cardinals are out. The Cardinals win 100 games, and they're out. Now, what this means for the Pirates, I don't think it's good news for the Pirates to see the Cubs doing what they're doing. They're ahead of schedule. Everybody kind of saw this coming with Theo Epstein. He did it with the Red Sox. And he blew up the Cubs and was willing to take a couple of years of losing. And he's gotten some great rookies in. I think they have 3 rookies in the starting lineup. They have a TV contract they're kind of... The Cubs, I was looking this up because I wanted to see what their TV contract is. The Cardinals have a $1 billion TV contract all signed. The Pirates, I think, make like $18 million a year for TV. So the Cardinals have a $1 billion TV deal signed, and they're into that already. The Cubs are kind of screwed up. They're tied up with WGN out there for the next couple of years, and I think it's going to be like 2018 or 19 before they can cash in on being from Chicago. But they know that money is coming, so that's almost the same as having it. So they're going to be spending a ton of money. They already have a ton of money without that. They just don't have the Dodger, Yankee $1 billion money yet. They're getting that, and so that's who they're in the Pirates division. The Cubs and the Cardinals. The Cardinals are one of the best organizations in sports. They got hurt a lot by injuries this year. They are one of the top revenue teams in baseball, despite being in a TV market smaller than Pittsburgh. They draw $3 million a year. They have a huge footprint in the Midwest, and that gave them the opportunity to have a gigantic cable network that gets them $1 billion now over, I think, 20 years. It's like $100 million a year. So maybe it's 10 year, $1 billion. But it's like $100 million a year that they get for TV. Now the Dodgers get like $220 million, and they play tonight. As I sit here today, it's Wednesday. They play tomorrow night actually to try to eliminate the Mets, and they have the highest payroll, so they may or may not get in. But as far as the Pirates are concerned, they have a bunch of people who are up for arbitration. Melanson being one of them, Alvarez, Walker, and they're in a division with two teams that are going to be really good for a really long time. I think the Pirates you better have enjoyed the last 3 years, because I think that they will go into the season next year. Some people picked them this year to win the World Series. A lot of people picked them as the best team in their division, picked them to win the division. I don't know how many people are going to pick them to be higher than third next year with the way the Cubs have gone and the Cardinals come back healthy. So is third place going to be enough to get a wild card next year in the National League Central? I don't know. And I think that what's happened here in the last week with the Cubs is not good news for the Pirates. And what's happened this year with the Cubs is not good news, because this wasn't supposed to happen quite yet. And so now they're way ahead of, I don't know about way ahead, but they're ahead of what was expected, and they could go to the World Series. They look pretty good right now. So it was amazing watching that, by the way, in Wrigley Field yesterday. I watched the end of that game. Wrigley Field's been there for 100 years, over 100 years. There has never been anything like what happened yesterday there in the history of that ballpark. They have never won a series that won something, or won a game that meant that they won something, ever in that ballpark in 100 years. I mean, that's amazing. And that's an amazing accomplishment of ineptitude, but it's an amazing thing. And to see those fans there, they were digging it. And I think I'm kind of rooting for the Cubs. For one thing, I actually got to the point where I rooted for the Red Sox, because I got so sick of hearing Red Sox fans whining about how what a sad life it's been for them. And I'd like the Cubs to win just to shut those people up, just so they shut up about what a tortured person you are for having followed the Cubbies. I'd like to see him win and then stop with the GOAT and the whole thing. And the Bartman. Today is the anniversary. I think it's 11 years ago today, something like that, that Bartman made his stupid move in a Cubs game and cost him big time. All right, now I saved this for last, I guess, and that would be your Penguins. 0-3. I think they've only started out 0-3 5 times in their history. The last time they did was 2001. I think they started out 0-4, and you know how that went. They were, or 2003, I think it was. They were terrible. They look unorganized right now. Crosby had 4 shots last night, still looking for his first goal. Last night being Tuesday night against the Canadiens. It's so early in the season. They have 79 games left. Might be a little early to start, talking about firing the coach, which some fans are out there doing already. I don't know if anybody in the media has started that yet. And nobody wants to hear this because they think it's an excuse, but they've played 3 really good goalies in their first 3 games, including the best goalie in the league last night, the best player in the league last night, Carey Price, the Vezina Trophy winner. So the other team every once in a while has something to say about what the local teams do. I expected to see, I don't know, maybe it was wishful thinking because I'm looking to be entertained, but I was expecting to see a lot more. I wasn't necessarily expecting to see 15 goals in the first 3 games by Crosby and Kessel, but I was expecting to see more chances, more excitement, more danger for the other team than I'm seeing so far. I don't know what's up with Crosby, but he looks like he's looking for the perfect pass all the time. He's looking to set up a little bit too much. I think he seems to have become a little bit too aware that he's got this really good player on the ice with him, whereas I think he might want to get back to thinking a little bit more along the lines of, I'm Sidney Crosby, I think I have to do this myself, and sort of kind of let the rest of it come to him. I don't know if you're the coach, what you do, how long do you give Crosby and Kessel together. Crosby, he went 2 games without a goal or a shot for only the second time in his career to start the season. So when you have stuff like that happening, you gotta how long do you put up with it? So at some point, Mike Johnson's going to have to do something. This is what you pay the coach for. He's supposed to figure this out. They went out and got him Phil Kessel to play with Sidney Crosby. The guy is an automatic 35 goals, and with Crosby should score at least 40. And it's not happening yet. He has 1 goal in 3 games, but I mean, it's just not happening. And I don't know how much patience you can have with that, but this is what coaches are paid to do. Their power play's I don't think they've scored a power play goal in 3 games. That's what coaches do. They devise power plays. This is what they're responsible for, and you have to start questioning the coaching if it doesn't happen pretty soon. I saw Mark Madden tweet this just before I left the house today to come out here and do this, that the Penguins are 5-18 in their last 23 games, according to Mark's tweet. I'll take his word for it on that. That's not good, and that is something that you have to start looking at the coach about if it doesn't get better pretty soon. But it's way too early for that now. 3 games in, they have I think they have the next 3 games at home, and they looked pretty good last night after they got going in the first period. The second period they looked good. And I want to say something about Bo Bennett. I went to see the Penguins rookie camp the year that Bo Bennett was a rookie, when they had the rookie scrimmage that year, the prospects camp, I guess they call it. And from the minute I saw him on the ice, there's something about the guy that I thought was special. And I still have thought that. He has I think he has a tremendous sense for where people are and for making passes, and I think he's got tremendous amount of skill. I don't know that if he'd have been playing on another team that didn't have Crosby and Malkin, that he might have been given more of a chance to be the star and be on a top line and play with top players. I think he might have been a better player by now, but he looked really good Tuesday night against Montreal. And if he becomes what they expected of him, then worrying about Crosby and Kessel can kind of be canceled out if Bo Bennett would come along and give them a surprise. 20. What if he comes up with 20 goals this year? That's a huge thing coming out of nowhere for him. So we'll see how that works out. But it's 3 games in, not very good right now. 79 games to go. That's 79 games, 6 months. A lot of people need to calm down, but it's not good. 0-3. So that's it for the sports right now. We will come back with news that matters, and there's not a lot of it coming up next.
J&D Waterproofing Pre-Game Meal with Tunch and Wolf is a weekly online TV show.
Man, you did that with the pressure on.
I did.
I am very...
I'm trying to up my game.
You didn't allow my heckling to get to you.
No.
Well, you want to tune in to CraigWolfley.com to catch this show, because by the time this show comes out on Friday, by the time we do it, we'll have watched hours upon hours of tape.
Right.
We will have watched all 3 Steeler practices.
Right.
We will have talked to the coaches, talked to the players. We will bring insight that you can only get on the Craig Wolfley Show.
And we tape every Friday at 12:30 live at the Cadillac Ranch, and you can get all the details at CraigWolfley.com.
That's all Craig, all the time.
What
We now go to John Steigerwald for news that matters. John?
Yes. I guess it matters that the Democrats had a debate last night. That's the only thing I got in all the news that matters. I mean, it's what's going on over in Syria with the Russians and all that. That matters, but who knows what the hell's going on over there. I'm not going to try to explain or even express an opinion on that stupidity. But the Democrats had their debate Tuesday night, and it was the Penguins playing Montreal, so there was no way I was going to watch the Democratic debate and not watch the Penguins. So I watched the Penguins game. I DVR'd the Democrats debate. I tried to watch it in between periods of the Penguins game. And I knew the DVR was running, but in between periods, I went and checked it out. I was very impressed with Jim Webb's introduction. He's a guy that back in sane times, he might actually be the Democratic nominee. He's a former senator. He's a Marine, a Vietnam vet. He's a guy that you could actually look at coming out as the President and Commander-in-Chief of the United States, that even if you're not a Democrat or not liberal as he is in some areas, you could stomach him. But that's not where we are now. We have people like Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and Bernie Sanders. So anyway, last night, it just struck me that this guy Webb, who I only watched for, the only thing I saw him do was his introduction, and I couldn't stomach listening to Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders to watch the debate, so I didn't hear anything else he said. But it just occurred to me that this is what we've come to, that idiots like Mrs. Clinton and Bernie Sanders are the only two candidates who are even taken seriously right now in a Democratic primary. With the primaries aren't for another 6 months or 4 months, whatever it is, 4 months. And this is who we're stuck with: Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. I watched Mrs. Clinton's intro and Sanders' intro last night. I wanted to puke, and I never watched another minute. It's everybody's a victim of capitalism, and I'm going to give free stuff. I got lots of free stuff that I'm going to give to everybody, especially young people who I can convince to come out and vote, because they'll actually believe me when I tell them that they're going to get something for free. So that's what they're selling, and there's nothing new there. And I wanted to watch the highlights on Fox News or somewhere where I could get maybe people commenting on it, and I couldn't even get through that because it required watching Hillary Clinton speak. I can't. She can't be president. I just can't believe that the country could survive 4 years of having to listen to her. I can't stand the sound of her voice. I can't stand anything that she says. I don't believe anything she says. I think that everything she says is calculated. I think everything she says is researched to see how many, how it's going to play out there in the public, how many votes it's going to get her. How could anyone go into a voting booth and say, yeah, I'd like 4 years of, would you please give me 4 years of Hillary Clinton every day on the news? State of the Union address, big crisis comes up. She's got to come out. You got to listen to Hillary Clinton. And Bill's in the background. I think he was like in a hotel last night, getting room service. Probably had a couple of chicks up there with him. He was in the hotel while she was doing the debate. He can't wait for this. He's going to get in the White House. Ooh, hello, more chicks to the White House. That's a good little enticement for the chicks. Hey, you want to try the Lincoln bedroom? Come on. I can show you where me and Monica did it. He is going to have a lot of fun. You got to look at him too. 4 years of Hillary and Bill, and not to mention Chelsea standing there. It's only a matter of time till she runs for the U.S. Senate or governor or someplace. She's not going to be able to stay out of it. So anyway, I couldn't watch more than a couple of minutes of it. I can't stand the sound of her voice. I can't imagine 4 years of it. I will not. I reached the point early on in President Obama's administration that he comes on, I can't look at him. I can't listen to him. Not because it's not his personality that drives me crazy. He seems like a pretty nice guy and a pretty cool guy actually to me. And I thought that all along. And I was much happier when I heard that when it turned out that he was running against McCain in 2008 and running against rather than Hillary Clinton. Because I, as much as I didn't want him to be president, I didn't think that it would be impossible for me to hear his voice or look at him for 4 years. And I knew back in 2008 that if Hillary got elected, that's the way I would feel. And so here we are 8 years later. I can't look at Barack Obama because I think he's an idiot and I don't believe anything he says either. And I think he's screwing the country up. But Hillary, I don't know how anybody, I don't know how anybody, man, woman, how, just you have to think about it. Now, wait a minute, this isn't just a vote. It means if I put this, if I mark this ballot and I submit this ballot, I'm actually saying, yes, I would like to look at Hillary Clinton's face and hear her voice for 4 years. Please give me 4 years of that. There cannot be enough people in America who will make that happen. I give up, by the way, and I mean it. I give up on the country if she gets elected. I give up on the country almost anyway because she's in position to be elected, and the person that's her greatest competition is an avowed socialist. That's where we are. If those people aren't just absolutely obliterated in the next election, the country's screwed for a long time. And this is one I like too. She says she's an outsider because she's a woman. That's what she was saying last night when people were trying to say that, she was asked a question about the success of the people in the Republican primary, people who have not been politicians. She says, how can you be more of an outsider? I'm a woman. She was First Lady, she was a senator, and she was Secretary of State. Other than that, she's had nothing to do with Washington for the last 20 years, okay? So, please, I'm begging you, don't make me have to look at her for 4 years. Now, I do have property in Canada, and I know that some people will vote for, if I say that I'm going to move to Canada, that will get her a lot of votes, because people will vote for her to get me out of the country. I understand that, but I mean, I'm just telling you, I have property in Canada. I will have the option of actually leaving the country for maybe long periods of time if she's president. I can't look at her for 4 years. You can't make me, I can't listen to her voice and look at her face for 4 years. You can't do it to me. Please, don't vote for her. Anybody else, even Bernie Sanders, as ridiculous as he is, I would take him over her just so I wouldn't have to look at her. Or Bill, or Chelsea. Now, one other quick thing. One good piece of news that matters. A recent Fox News poll, I think it was yesterday. Every Republican beats Hillary. Every single one beats her, and some of them by a lot. That has to have the Democrats a little bit worried. I know it's early, but she's behind all of them. And Biden beats every Republican in the same poll. So that tells you that in that poll, there are a lot of people who feel the way I do. They cannot even stomach the possibility of having to look at that hag for 4 years as the President of the United States. They can't do it. And so they've taken Republicans over her, but then when asked about Biden, they go back to their Democrat or their liberal sentiments, and they pick Biden over every Republican. So I hope Joe Biden gets in sometime in the next 5 minutes, because I think he's an idiot, and I don't agree with just about anything he has to say politically. But I could look at him for 4 years, as much as it would annoy me having another liberal president. But I could stomach looking at him. Hillary, I can't. But it doesn't matter, because we're doomed anyway.
Why we may be doomed.
Well, Halloween is coming up, and apparently there are people out there who just don't think we can do that. Can't have Halloween. Kiddies can't be getting dressed up. Now, I had originally planned, and this maybe falls under the category of maybe we're not quite as doomed as I thought, but a Connecticut school district banned Halloween because of, some kids might feel left out because it wouldn't accommodate some of their cultural or religious beliefs. But Milford, Connecticut is where it happened, and they now have another problem. It says here, last week, elementary schools in the city of 52,000 that tried to limit celebration of the holiday. They tried to protect those who might not wish to participate, faced accusations that they were trying to ban Halloween. As a result, they've walked the restrictions back under protest. The drama began on October 9th, when one principal made it known that one tradition, a costume parade in school during school hours, would end. This is what this principal said. Her name is Rosemary Marzanato. Halloween parades will not take place in any Milford elementary schools. This is her letter. This decision arose out of numerous incidents of children being excluded from activities due to religion, cultural beliefs, etc. School day activities must be inclusive. Halloween costumes are not permitted for students or staff during the day at school. So, okay, it says here, what if students didn't have a school-wide Halloween parade but just celebrated with candy in their classrooms? Nope, can't do that either. Any type of classroom activity will be decided by the teacher and must be fall-themed. Fall-themed, not Halloween. So bring the kids in. You know, when I went to school, it was Halloween, you got dressed up, or whatever they did. Now they come in and they're going to show you leaves, you know, and say it's fall and the kids are supposed to have a good time. The outcry was immediate. It was as if truth, justice, and the American way were under assault. I think it's crazy, Victoria Johansson, mother of a third grader at Live Oak School, told the Connecticut Post. She added, I don't think we're excluding anybody. I think they're excluding themselves. What about that for a concept? You know, if you come here as an immigrant to the United States and you send your kids to the American schools, what you say to your kids when they go out the door is, look, we moved to a different country. People are different here. Don't worry about it, okay? Things are going to be good. That's why we moved here. I don't know if you understand the word assimilate if you're like in the second grade, but, you know, explain the concept of assimilation to your little kid and tell them to shut up and go to school and then leave people alone. But, you know, I wonder sometimes if when this kind of stuff happens, you look at the people for whom these rules are being made, and you blame those people when maybe those people don't really feel like they need these rules, but it's the stupid morons who are running the schools who assume it. Faced with the backlash, Jim Riccitelli, the chief operations officer for Milford Public Schools, claimed, quote, no direct knowledge of Halloween protocols, but he took a moment to defend diversity. Milford Public Schools do have many children from diverse beliefs, cultures, and religions. The goal is for all children to feel comfortable and definitely not alienated when they come to school. Within hours, an online petition appeared, bring back our American tradition to our schools. This is just not right, Rebecca Lilly wrote. Growing up in America, there are certain traditions and celebrations we've become accustomed to celebrating at home and during school, saying the Pledge of Allegiance, Halloween parades, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's, Valentine's Day parties, and dances and Easter. These are our American customs and traditions, and we should not have to give them up because others find them offensive. Now, why would anybody even argue with that statement? I'm so tired of my kids missing out on some of the things we all got to do as children, and some of the greatest childhood memories I have due to others saying they find it offensive. I say embrace our culture, and we will try to embrace yours, or keep your child at home. So, there's a lot of profanity in some of the comments, too. And I guess it changed a little bit. There are those who unmercifully attack the decision, falsely accusing the Milford Public Schools for banning Halloween, this principal wrote. We have been accused of being un-American, of denying children participation in American tradition, and that we should be ashamed. So, the after-school event was ditched, and the parade was back on. They are willing to do it. There are those who feel a 20-minute parade is important. Lilly, the pro-Halloween petition's originator, was jubilant and dismissed the superintendent's scolding. We were never attacking the integrity of the Milford school system. I love the Milford school system. So there you go. So they tried, and this is what parents need to do. They need to not necessarily buy the idea that these people from other cultures who have come here fairly recently need to be protected from our customs and traditions. Just send your kids there and tell them, hey, we're in a new country. If I picked up my grandkids and moved them to China tomorrow, I wouldn't expect the Chinese to stop doing whatever they do in school. I would just send my kids there and say, deal with it. Work with it. Then there's this. This is in, not sure where this is. This is a kid comes to school wearing a military shirt. His brother is a Marine. So his name is Dexter. It's Dexter McCarty Middle School. The kid's name is Alan Holmes. And his older brother joined the U.S. Marines when he was 19 years old and served a tour in Iraq. And so school officials apparently don't share this little kid's understanding or patriotic spirit, and recently forced him, he's an 8th grader, to change his shirt that depicted a traditional soldier memorial or face in-school suspension. The kid chose the suspension. Good for him. The principal, I asked him, is this considered a suspension? He said, yes, I'll see you tomorrow, and I left. That's what the kid said. I was just upset. I was heartbroken. My brother, he means everything to me. Just being able to help and give back to the people who fought and died for us, it just makes me feel good. The school dress code states that students cannot wear anything that promotes alcohol, drugs, tobacco, or violence. Now remember, we had, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, there was a school somewhere that did not allow kids to wear shirts that had pictures of superheroes on them because they solve their problems, solve their, fight crime with violence. So you can't have Superman on there, or Batman. He punched somebody in the face once. So school officials told Holmes, that's the kid, that the shirt was inappropriate because it contained a weapon and asked him to instead wear a school shirt. The weapon that it contained was a rifle stuck in the ground, with the bayonet, and the helmet placed on top of the stock of the rifle. And it says, the picture is, standing for those who stood for us. This kid in an American school is not allowed to wear that shirt. Now, fortunately, his dad said, I'm proud of him. He says, I would have done the same thing. Of course, the school officials wouldn't discuss it with the media. And of course, this created a storm of protests online. And I don't think anything's going to happen with it. He's not allowed to wear the shirt. He got suspended. This is an American public school. A kid wears a shirt honoring the U.S. Marines, and the feminized, sissified public school it's horrified by the sight of a rifle, and can't tolerate this kid wearing the shirt. That's where we are. And by the way, how do they? What's happened with the mountaineer down in West Virginia? Does he still shoot his gun? Because I'm pretty offended by that, and I'm waiting for somebody to put an end to that because that's deeply offensive to me. We're definitely doomed.
Hey guys, I'm Chelsea Pompiani.
And I'm Selena Pompiani.
And you could hear our new podcast, Pompin' Ain't Easy, where we're going to be talking about sports, pop culture, fashion, style, some of the things that we like, and you'll hear some of our special guests as well.
Absolutely, and make sure that you tune in because there's a lot of other great shows from our fellow Pittsburghers all on the Pittsburgh Podcast Network.
In a SteigerWorld, it's STAG at the movies.
Well, I remember when the Pompiani girls were born. Give you no idea how long I've been around. But we have the camera way up there on the top of the mountain because here at STAG at the movies, we're going to talk about Everest. That's the movie that I saw, and it was about Mount Everest, believe it or not. And it was really good. I would suggest you go see it. Excellent, actually. It's obviously about people who try to climb Mount Everest and things go wrong and people die. And it's pretty gruesome at times. It does a really, really good job of making you feel like you're climbing Mount Everest. And when you get out of that movie, you're glad you're not on Mount Everest. You're glad it's like the sun's out and you're walking around on level ground because it's nasty. Makes you wonder why anybody would do that, obviously. But really, really good special effects. Makes it look real. Great visuals. Good acting. And a lot of miserable-looking people. I mean, they really get beat up on this little trip up the mountain. And I liked it a lot. And they showed the film of the actual... It's based on a true story. And I didn't look up how exactly true it was. How much leeway they took with the truth, but they did show the real people at the end of the movie, and including one guy who takes a beating, and he survived, and it's amazing to see him at the end, what he looks like now. So it's a good movie. I saw it on the huge screen at Cinemark in Robinson Township. That there's certain movies that you really should see on those gigantic screens, and that's one of them. So I've seen two pretty good movies with really good special effects in the last couple of weeks. The Martian and Everest, I would recommend them both highly. I couldn't get my wife to go for the 3D on Everest. There were some scenes there I would like to have seen in 3D. I have a 3D TV. Maybe I'll watch it in 3D when it comes out. I can get it on cable or someplace. But Everest is the movie, and it's a good one. And go see it. And that's it. Stag at the movies. And I'll see you next week.